you know, I have a lot to say and I have a lot to cover. Normally I do 5 day seminars and programs and events, but it's tough to compact everything in a short period of time. That's why to be able to spend some time with you guys in Portugal is going to be great that I can go deeper down the rabbit hole. As many of you I know would love to go down. If you love to go down the rabbit hole, please put yes in the chat box for me. Let me know how deep you want this rabbit hole to go because there's a space in your mind that if you allow to open up, you can create everything that you're looking for. And I was at the gym this morning and I saw a young man just lifting weights and in between 22 years old and in between lifting weights, in between his sets, he was reading the thoughts and the work of Thoth and Hermes. And I was like, a 22-year-old kid reading this book. I went up to him and I said, young man, how did you start to learn about this? He said, well, I've been trying to study it and figure out the law of attraction. I said, here's the interesting thing. I said about the law of attraction. I said, I know you probably know a guy named Bob Proctor, who, if you use that name, he goes, oh my God, Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor is like the godfather of this. I said, well, Bob Proctor was a direct mentor of mine. I studied with Bob and I sat and used to have dinner with Bob all the time. And Bob used to say something very interesting. He said, Alok, he'd say, you're going to bring the science to the forefront to help us understand how our brains think. And I didn't know what he meant at that time, but Bob was a visionary in his own right. And he said that to me. And when I started sitting down with this young man at the gym today, and I said to him, I said, look, I said, most people don't realize that they are the secret to creating the universe that they want to from their nervous system is coming from a space that their nervous system has to be congruent and coherent. However, most people are living in a nervous system that's repelling and incongruent. And he said, tell me more. I said, because there's a law of attraction. We know this. There's also a law of repulsion. He said, what? I said, think about this. I said, there's a law of attraction. Everyone wants the attraction, but most people are programmed in society, and our nervous system then resonates a frequency that puts out the law of repulsion. That's why you don't get the things you want to, but you get a few of the things that you want to, but you don't get most of the things that you want to. That's why you don't create the world in income and money and business that you want to, because you think the answer is this is going to be hard work. And I'm going to tell you right now, the secret to the universe is not hard work, it's congruency. It's congruency. When you can become congruent and coherent, then the operations takes care of itself. That doesn't mean you don't have to work. There's a physical part of this that you have to embrace. However, if the thinking isn't in the right place and the nervous system is not in the right place, then this vessel that you're in becomes incongruent. Incongruent. And please understand this is that the body is the conduit of consciousness. The nervous system is the medium of consciousness, and the muscles are the mechanisms of consciousness. And so if the nervous system is the medium between the muscles that make you take action and the consciousness of what you're thinking, that means that the nervous system that you're working with in Lumavite is actually the most important ingredient to someone's health. It's the nervous system's component that is allowing the body to express itself fully. When we started, most people don't realize it's the first cell, the first organism, excuse me, the first cell of the human body is the brain and nervous system. And the brain and nervous system are the keys to driving the entire structure that we live in. But that all comes from this universal intelligence and this place in our mind and our body, and our thoughts control this. Because you could be having a thought in your brain that's causing you more repulsion. Because I don't care what affirmations you say on the outside. It's the internal affirmations on the inside that really create it. And it's not the affirmations of positive or negative, because the nervous system, if it's truly functioning, is functioning in homeostasis, not in sympathetic or parasympathetic. And if you're overly sympathetic, your nervous system is scared and flight and freeze and fawn. If you're overly parasympathetic, it's overly looking for overly delusional psychosis. But when you integrate both, you have homeostasis, pardon me. And so if the nervous system is functioning correctly, you have an organism that's present. And consciousness is the key that creates that presence. And when the consciousness is present, your nervous system is aligned. Now you put the right materials, the right matter into the system, put the right frequency with the water and the Lumavite hydrogen, because hydrogen is the element of the quantum. Most people don't realize that, which you do, which I'm super excited to work with you because of that. Because if the hydrogen is the element of the quantum, then you're working at the most elemental state of conscious creation. Put yes in the chat box if you get what I just said. Good. So if we're all on the same page, that we realize this, that we're not here for ourselves. We're here for the purpose of impact. We're here to make a difference in others' lives. And here's the cool thing, what Taryn and team have put together here is an opportunity for a business that you can actually monetize from this conscious world to a material world and helping people become more of who they are. Wow. Think about that just for a second. You get to be more of who you are. You get to express yourself more fully and allow yourself to be who you are in this world and express your spiritual self, your innate self, your the parts of yourself that you don't let other people see. What if the entire space of your community, the people you know, the world you're building within the Luma Vitae world is one of your conscious reflection? And when your conscious reflection is built in, and now you get to change the lives of the ripple effect of the people that you're working with. See, that's the thing, is that leaders know this. Leaders know that you need to get around other leaders that have higher levels or more degrees of reflection back to themselves. When you transcend and your nervous system hits that space of parasympathetic and sympathetic balance and homeostasis, your mind and body become congruent to build. But when you're stuck in that space of a tone and an idea, a thought, not what you're saying today. I know you're all going to tell me, no, Dr. T, I think very positive, and I think positive thinking is the answer, and I'm positive about my life. I don't give a shit if you're positive, because positive thinking is what breeds delusion. Positive thinking is what breeds depression. Positive thinking is the cause of most people's psychosis in today's world. I'm not interested in positive thinking. I'm interested in rewired thinking. I'm interested in the flow. I'm interested in the consciousness that creates the homeostatic space because that's where frequency rises. Frequency at the highest level is a term where your nervous system goes faster and faster and faster and faster. That happens in balance. It doesn't happen at sympathetic or parasympathetic imbalance. Most of us are thinking in one side of the delusion. It's living when the rhythm is at the highest. That's what you're doing. When you're giving people Luma Vitae water and they're taking the hydrogen tabs, they don't know this, but you're detoxing all the chemicals that are creating sympathetic and parasympathetic imbalances in the body. And you're allowing the cell to be the most natural state. And the electric frequency, the electromagnetic frequency of this body, this frequency of our life, come together, and the nervous system gets to take that in, and that cell starts to vibrate and radiate at a higher level. And when that cell starts to vibrate and radiate at a higher level, now all of a sudden that frequency of that cell hits mitochondrial genesis. Mitogenesis happens because frequency and mitogenesis are interconnected. Please do the research on this. And so the higher the frequency, the more the mitochondria. The more the mitochondria, the more the ATP. Therefore, our frequency rises. And then as the frequency rises, all of a sudden the electromagnetic field around you rises more. Because of that, impact rises. Because of that, the way that you think rise. The way that because of that, now you're helping people and children and moms go to bed at night in calmness and ease. Because of that, you're helping leaders in business grow a business. Because of that, you're helping other people live a life of inspiration, not desperation. My friends, you are the pinnacle of what it's going to take for people to step into leadership into this world. Right now, the universe with AI is looking for people to help people feel whole again. They're looking for people to feel whole and they don't know how to do it. And you know what? I'll tell you who they are. They're your friends. They're your neighbors. They're the guy that you don't even know that's sitting next to you at the movies. They're the person that is trying to resonate and embody this feeling, but they don't know how to do it. And what they do is they call that anxiety. They call it sickness. They call it digestive disturbances because that's a label medicine has given us. Because that is the imbalance. That's not the imbalance, my friends. When you become in tune and congruent and aligned, even though I don't like that word, but attuned to the frequency you're designed with, all of a sudden your world starts to shift and change. All of a sudden, the things that you do begin to shift and change. If I said to you that the nervous system is the medium of consciousness, and that medium needs the right elements and then the right thinking, the mind and the body, electromagnetic and the physical, to come into reality, then what you have is a system of the body that is working correctly. But the way that we think is what's controlling the rest of us. But how we're thinking is a program that's been given to us by other people. It's a program that we've been given with. Now, here's the funny part about this. When I started doing this work, we used to sit and say you had limited thinking or self-sabotaging beliefs or limited beliefs or limited thing, all these languages. And I'm going to tell you that they're all bullshit. From neurologic standpoint, they're all bullshit. You do not have a limiting belief. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as a limiting belief. There's no such thing as self-sabotage. The only difference between where you are today and where you want to be, the difference is not the why being big enough. The difference is that it's the why not. The why not. The sympathetic nervous system is preventing you from moving from where you want to go. Once you clear the why not, you naturally move. You know you're doing it for your family, your people, your impact, the world being a better place, and that sounds great. But why aren't you taking the actions you're designed to do? And I'll tell you why, because you've been programmed by a set of conditions and your nervous system is now holding those. This body is holding it. Not this. Now you can do all the affirmations, say, I am great, I am amazing, I am so powerful, and I'm so great. I don't really care what language you say. What I care about is what the tone of the nervous system says. Because the nervous system is telling me the real language. And it's telling the universe by the way that you feel internally about yourself what the real conversation is. Don't bullshit yourself, my friends. If you're not in Portugal, you're making yourself a mistake. If you're not in Portugal, you're telling yourself that you're not aligning to the congruency of factors to rewire who you are. You're telling yourself that it's okay to play small. And if that's how you want to play, I'm not here to judge you, but I am here to sit and say that if you don't step into your life, don't expect anybody to step up for your life. Please get that. If you don't step into your life, don't expect anybody to step up for your life. That's why your business struggles. That's why people don't come to you. That's why people stay stuck because you haven't raised your own frequency. You can't preach a frequency of raising when you are stuck in a frozen frequency because you know what? The words don't matter. The person feels it. These mirror neurons that I ended last week's call with, these mirror neurons are reflective. And in that room, those mirror neurons are going to be working. And when I rewire the entire room in one flash of a moment, and I take the entire room and I bring them to gratitude and love, and their nervous systems align, you will have tears of gratitude in the body. Inspired feelings will go up. Your nervous system will start to awaken, and your body's going to sit and say, holy crap, I didn't even realize this place existed. And you're going to transcend. While I heal one person, I'm going to heal everybody else who's in that room simultaneously. Because when the nervous system is there, it takes the collective consciousness to do this. That's why the work that you're doing in this world is so powerful because you're creating a collective consciousness. I'm creating a collective consciousness in my world. And I say that to you because I want to see more of that in the world. I want to see more kids off of drugs. I want to see more kids off of psychotropic medication. I want to see more parents honoring themselves. I want to see more parents having the same fight that my kids had last night, not fighting over the TV, the remote control, or the soda or the chips. My kids fought yesterday because they were both trying to get to the food scale to measure their food to see the macros that they eat. That is what I want to see. I want to see kids who are in this next generation who learn how to navigate their nervous system. Because I will tell you, parents are lost. People are lost. We don't have an obesity epidemic. We have a nervous system dysregulation epidemic, which leads to obesity. Obesity is a symptom. GLP-1 is a symptom of people not being inspired and using the prefrontal cortex of their brain. What if you and I could partner together and change the lives of thousands upon thousands of people to awaken them to their soul, to awaken them to their life, integrate their nervous system, wake up their power to who they are, use water, oxygen, frequency, hydrogen to elevate their physical state to translate the consciousness in which they live. Now their body and mind come together as one. And their DNA that they've been given, they get to live that DNA, which is why I created the brain DNA work, because then they can move into that space. In my new book, which I I cover four different brain DNA types: a protector, a chaser, a bridge builder, or a receiver. Each one functions differently. First key code everyone needs to understand is who they are biologically. The second key code is psychologically. We've been trying to play this backwards. We've been saying our psychology dictates our physiology, our biology dictates our psychology. The psychology is the feedback to the biology. I'm going to let you marinate on that one. You can write that one and circle on that, and then ask me in Portugal what I mean by that. Because your nervous system is the key regulator. Your nervous system is the key regulator of thought and body, mind and body. But what if it's body and mind? What if this evolutionary system comes together and allows the nervous system to actually be the vessel that shares thought and consciousness into the world? Who do you think? I don't know if Taryn's ready for me to ask this question to the group, but I will. What do you think the legacy of your life looks like if you're dysregulated? What do you think you teach your kids if you're dysregulated? What do you think you teach your team if you're dysregulated? My friends, my greatest students are not you, they're my kids. And the greater the shoulders I create for them to jump off of, the more inspired I become, the more inspirational their lives can become. And I challenge you to be the same. Not to say that you're not, I don't know that. You probably already are. But I challenge you to look at your life and sit and say, I need to be the greatest version of myself. You notice I didn't say the highest or the best. None of that matters. Just 100% of your soul's expression into the world, doing what it's designed to do, and letting the universe take care of the rest. And then imagine your family watches that. Now imagine every podcast you do, people watch that. The other day I took my family, and I'll close on this. The other day I took my family to see the movie Michael on Mother's Day. And Michael was Michael. And people have come along and done the moonwalk after Michael. But then you watch Michael do it. You watch Michael do the moonwalk. And then you watch every person afterwards do the moonwalk. You know why it's never the same? Because Michael embodied the frequency of the moonwalk. That was his. Everything, everyone else who's done it after that, myself included, they're not inspired. They're duplicates. That inspired soul that's waiting to come out through your nervous system is waiting for you to show up. Michael wasn't Michael because he was the greatest singer. Michael wasn't Michael because he was the greatest dancer. Michael wasn't Michael because he was the perfectionist of his craft. Michael was Michael because he embodied the nervous system and the frequency in which he was given. My friends, you have that opportunity. You have the path, the tools, the material tools, the system. It's not about building a business. It's about expressing your soul. The business is the byproduct of the soul that you express. With that, my friends, I'm going to have to cut it a little bit short here today, but I thank you guys for having me. I look forward to seeing you in Portugal. If you're not in Portugal, you're making a mistake. I'm going to take that room and I am going to light it on fire, and I'm going to, in a good way, and I'm going to rewire the room. And you want to be in that room. It's a life-changing experience. I've taken every which condition you could think of, from cancers to Crohn's to lupus to irritable bowel disease, and rewired them and help people here. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to do that, but when your nervous system is healing and your nervous system has the power, then your life changes. I'll say this thing that we used to say in practice all the time, and I'll say it to you. The power that made the body, the power that made the body heals the body. It just needs no interference. That's what we'll do in Portugal. We're going to remove all the interference in between those ears. We're going to remove all the interference in your nervous system. and you're going to express, and you're going to walk out of that country if you're not from there. You're going to walk out of that airport, that customs lines, and you're going to vibrate and radiate a whole different frequency. And people are going to look at you and say, "What did you do? Why are you different? Something's different." And you're going to sit and say, "I'm just more of me, and I love me."